Hey guys, won't you come back and join me for the second in a series on leadership in today's churches? Today I'm going to be talking or giving my opinion on the challenges that the youth pastors of today have in our churches and the important role that they do play. So come back, check out the welcome. And thanks again for joining me on another episode of Overcoming Addiction. And these latest episodes are going to be something I'm doing a little different. And it's about leadership in today's churches. And as I explained in the previous video, the reason why I'm talking about this subject is because many people who struggle with addiction or any type of abuse turn to spiritual leaders for help and guidance. So I thought it would be important to point out some of the things that they will be looking for in their spiritual leaders and some of the problems that are happening in our churches today that could possibly turn those in need away. Now, in this episode, and this is the second, and probably going to be a 3 or 4 part series. I'm not quite sure yet. More than likely, it'll be four. But in this episode, it's another chapter from a book that's coming up, and this one is called Youth Pastors. And it's about the challenges youth pastors are faced with in today's society in our churches. So here we go. Today's churches are made up of various ministries. There is the leadership, and then there are supporting ministries such as the nursing ministry, finance ministry, and some even have a children's ministry. That's just to name a few. Each play key roles in the functioning and the messaging of the church. The role of a youth pastor is probably the most challenging position to have in today's church. The youth ministry has the difficult task of crafting a message that resonates with today's youth. Now, there are three reasons why I believe this is a very difficult assignment, but one with rewards. Uh, One of the first reasons is getting the message out. As I mentioned before, the role of a pastor is to teach the message given in the Bible to help those who do not understand it. The task of a youth pastor is to deliver the message in a form young members and senior members will receive without one age group feeling a sense of alienation. Young preachers must not only reach their members, but also young people outside of their respected churches. Another one is they have to protect themselves. Young pastors are still young themselves, which makes navigating through the temptation of today's world more difficult. Satan wants to rule this world, and he tries to do so using corruption and violence, which are just a handful of his many tools. Now, young people are some of his prime targets. For Satan, the use of deception and influence is a way to entice the young to carry out sinful acts that harm themselves and others. As he continues to use more deception and lies to influence our youth, it becomes more difficult for them to see the dangerous consequences of their actions. So, young pastors who are teaching the truth and uncovering his lies will be at the top of Satan's list of people he needs to control. Now, this is the third reason why I say this could be a rewarding factor for the youth pastors. It's difficult, but this is the third of the three assignments that I think they have, and this is probably the most important one because this is where they have to set an example. Now, as I summarized in the last video from John Maxwell's book, The Five Levels of Leadership, great leaders create great leaders. As a young pastor, especially a good one, his role as a mentor will have a greater impact in his community because he gains the attention of other young in the community. I know of a few young preachers who have the respective gang members in their community, as well as other communities around them. Setting an example is significant in being a youth pastor. Their ability to relate to young people could encourage them to seek the truth. That same ability could also spark the interest of another young individual, and by doing so, encourage them to become the next youth pastor. I should point out that when I use the phrase youth pastor, I'm referring to someone either in their teens or mid 20s. This is the age range of our society that is under fierce attack by Satan and his demons. He knows that anyone who can counter his influence and lead to the demonic depossession of our youth is a threat to his plans. The future of our society is in the hands of our youth. So I believe it is within reason to think that the youth ministers, who are the future of the body of Christ, are the ones who can connect with them. Having any level of success as a young leader will greatly be rewarded. So now I want to talk about someone many of you may be familiar with, at least everyone who has read the Bible. Meet Timothy of the New Testament. Now, in the New Testament, there are two letters written by Apostle Paul to one of his disciples whose name is Timothy. Timothy helped found churches in notable places like the cities of Corinth, Thessalonica, and Philippi. It is said that he became the first bishop of Ephesus in the church founded there by the Apostle Paul. Timothy began studying under Paul as a teenager. He spent 13 years as a disciple before he was given an assignment to teach in a church. In this summation of Paul's first letter to Timothy, known in the Bible as 1 Timothy, in chapter 1, verses 3 through 4, Paul tells Timothy that the set purpose of this letter was to encourage the young evangelist to maintain sound doctrine and instruct others who were doing otherwise. Part of the work of a minister is to teach the Bible accurately, while another part is to correct those who may be in error and consequently teach what is incorrect. By the way, this summation that I just read you is from the YouTube channel called Bible Talk TV. So check it out. It's pretty good. Now, in the actual letter written by Paul to Timothy, it does not make the distinction of encouraging the young. Age can be about perception. One can be young in understanding doctrine. That would be considered a youth. You can be a 40-year-old man, but just learn to understand doctrine. That would make you young in understanding doctrine. But I believe that distinction is made here because Timothy was a young man, and Paul wanted him to encourage other young men to become wise in doctrine so they can go out and spread the gospel truth. Again, great leaders create great leaders. Today, this should be the focus of our youth ministers. If sound doctrine is taught, it can cause the depossession or dispossession of the demons that are controlling some of today's youth. I did mention in this piece that, and this is because I feel this way. Maybe others do, but I feel this way. The greatest teacher of them all was Jesus Christ. And as we all know, he lived to his mid 30s or early 30s. So today, that would be considered a young pastor. But Jesus had the ability to reach all people, not just the young. His message was for everybody. So that's why I say today it is a difficult task for the young pastors to perform their role as prescribed in the church. Thanks for watching, and I hope you tune in again for the third part in this series on leadership in today's churches. And part 3 is going to talk about transparency in the leaders of the church. So, leadership transparency. And as I said, these are done on this channel where I usually talk about or present tools to help those that are struggling with addiction. But this topic is because, and I'm using this topic because young people or anyone that is struggling with an addiction or an abuse of any kind, they will turn to spiritual guidance for help. And if those in those positions aren't trained to help those that need help or are seeking their guidance, then they will lose. Satan will win the battle. The idea is for those that are looking for help, who I consider to be under demonic possession, because anybody that uses drugs is really under demonic possession. But the idea is for those that are seeking help with this problem to become depossessed. And it is the role of the church to do so. Also, that means the leaders of the church have to be combat ready. I'm going to talk about that in the upcoming video. So, thanks again for watching this episode of Overcoming Addiction / Leadership in Today's Churches. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share the video. If you have any comments, as always, you can leave them in the comments section. Or as I always do, I'll give you my email up here and you can email me for suggestions on videos or comments to previous videos or this one. Also, there's a telephone number that you can call and leave a voicemail, and I'll get back with you. On the voicemail, you can also leave comments or suggestions on videos. Look, the idea is to start a discussion. My opinions are just my opinions. They are really none that are based in fact, just my observations. And I share them to get a conversation started. Feel free, if you are in dispute of any of the things that I have said, to write about it or comment about it. I love discussing these things, and I have no problem with sharing my insights as I listen to others. So feel free to comment. Thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of Overcoming Addiction.